You're listening to the Fantasy Fling Podcast. Take a break from the season-long commitment and join us as we give you the newest and hottest DFS deals, preview the DFS main slate, and take the dreadful walk of shame. Here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Welcome in. Making a Milli. It's our Week 10 Milli Maker special. Week 10 preview on DraftKings of the Milli Maker. And, of course, we're going to take a look back at Week 10. So it's Week 11, but we're looking back at Week 10 and seeing what we learned from last week. And last week was a crazy week of running backs that were chalk, smashing all over the place, smashing in cash, smashing in small tournaments, smashing in GPP. And, of course, large field GPPs, and the Milli Maker was certainly one of them. And speaking of smashing, Eric, as far as large field GPPs go, you kind of had a little bit of a smash last week. Man. Is this 2 weeks in a row?
2 weeks
for
in
you?
a row. 2 weeks in a row. Made up. It's $150 this week. That's not bad. I'd love to win the $1 million, but that'll at least allow me to put more lineups in it.
The wife won't yell at you because you're putting a bunch of money into DFS.
Hey, I've won more than I've lost, so
exactly.
I'm on the good side of things.
Exactly. That's what it's about. For sure. So, yeah, Eric had the top score, and we're going to get into that in a second, but at the top out of us three anyways. But what we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at the Milli Maker winner of Week 10. So, kind of talked about this last week, but it was another low-scoring week as far as Milli Makers go, Milli Maker winning lineup. So, I believe we had 213 total points. And now I actually watched DFS Army. They did a breakdown of the Milli Maker last week, and this was one of the few times that it actually was an MME player who ended up winning the whole thing. And so at 213 points, there was a couple little stacks. Let's take a look here. So what we had was a Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs stack. We talked about this on the Fantasy Fling podcast earlier this week, Eric. Sometimes maybe we just overthink it a little bit, Talking about the shell cover 2, worried about Diggs. It's the Jets. So this MME lineup for the Milli Maker had Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs. This stack scored a total of 58 points, averaged 29 points. And, it's the Jets, so you don't need to bring back. You just trash them. You just flex on them. You team stack that. And that's what he did. But what was surprising about this is there was another stack. And you typically hear in DFS, do not play two running backs from the same game. And we even say that on this podcast often. So what you had was a stack of Hunter Henry and Ramondre Stevenson on the Patriots. And then on the other side, that was brought back with a running back from Cleveland, D'Ernest Johnson, who was filling in for Chubb. So these three players scored a total of 72 points, and they averaged 24 points. Now, I would feel like this is the exception to the rule because both of these teams, if you look at Cleveland and New England, they want to run the ball. Both of these teams, they live off running the football. And secondly, both of these running backs were low-priced running backs. You're not paying $8,000 for these guys, or, $8,000 for one and $6,000 for the other. And third, D'Ernest Johnson, the role that he played, he's getting a lot of rushing attempts. He's also getting receptions. So in a PPR format, this is when you can play the same two running backs in one game. And it totally paid off here for these guys. If we go look at pricing and their value, we got D'Ernest Johnson. He was 4.82x, and Ramondre Stevenson was 6.75x. We have not seen a winning Milli Maker lineup this year with less than 6x with at least one position. So this continues the trend. This is certainly the exception of two running backs in the same game being in the winning Milli Maker lineup. And then let's take a look at roster percentage. Now, I tweeted this out earlier. We have certainly seen an uptick this year in past several weeks in total roster percentage. So to start the year, total roster percentage, right now it's 96.7% on the season. However, the first month of the season, it was at 82.5%. If you look at it over the past 6 weeks, it's climbed to 106%. So, which is right below the 108% average that we saw in 2020. So it's definitely something to think about when you're building your lineups. You know, total roster percentage, maybe you need to uptick that a little bit as opposed to what we were looking at in the past, 3 to 4 weeks of the season before that. But so this roster percentage that we saw last week in the total for the Milli Maker winning lineup, we had Josh Allen at 9%, Dennis Johnson, he was the chalkiest guy. And I'll admit, as far as GPPs, I thought these guys were full fades just because if you get a backup running back and they're that chalk, it's just an easy fade for me. Well, what do I know? I didn't win $1 million last week. So Dennis Johnson, 48%, Mark Ingram, 26%. So this is how you play two very chalky running backs and still win it because Ramondre Stevenson was 3%, which is just nuts. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And then Keenan Allen, 8%. Stephon Diggs, 8%. These are studs at low ownership overall. You think Stephon Diggs going against the Jets and he was 8% owned? Jeez, it's almost like someone on this podcast gave you bad advice or something. I don't know. CeeDee Lamb. What's that?
That wouldn't be me.
No, you weren't.
You give out no bad advice. That must have been a different podcast you were listening to. This is only good. This is the good advice podcast.
Yeah. By the way, I say that, throwing a little shade at myself, but I can't count how many times I've said this on this podcast. Stephon Diggs, he was under 10%, and he scored 33 points. And we do talk about this every week. When you have a stud under 10%, this is when you play him. You play him in large field GPPs. You don't play him in cash. It's stupid. But you play him in large field GPPs. So, and then Hunter Henry, he was one of the other low owned guys with Jonnu Smith being out. As soon as that news came down, I started hand building a bunch of lineups with him, and of course he smashed. So, and then Ramondre Stevenson, he was the guy 3% and the Eagles D. So if you're looking for leverage, total roster percentage doesn't really mean a whole lot unless you really look at leverage. Stevenson was the leverage off the field with 3.28% ownership. I do not understand why he was rostered at such a low rate. People were just getting carried away. Oh my God, it's Brandon Bolden's the guy. It's Taylor. Dude, Stevenson was going to be the starter. Like, why?
Yeah, Stevenson honestly looked amazing in preseason. If you watched the preseason games, the guy looked great.
Yeah.
He went into game one. Like first or second play he fumbled straight into Belichick's doghouse. And now they're getting him going again. He's playing great.
He's good, man. He's
fit. I'm throwing a Hail Mary out here. He might be this year's Cam Akers.
He's better than, in my opinion, he's better than Harris, and he has lateral movement, which Harris doesn't. So I think he's better overall.
And as you guys know, in our league, I'm pretty sure I've dropped this guy and picked him up like 5 times. I put on my clown makeup every single time I drop him, and I put it right back on every single time I pick him right back up.
The crazy thing, too, is so hindsight is 2020, right? Like, Eric, we talked about this. So I played him in cash, and I was like, the roster percentage projections I was seeing at that time, I was like, this is kind of a risky play. Because he's not chalk, and normally I play chalk in cash games. I was like, but the value, he was a great play, so I played him. Had I known, though, that he was going to be, because you can't really know for sure, like when you don't have updated roster percentages in front of you. Like I didn't know that he was going to be this low owned, or else I would have played him in cash. I would have played him everywhere, because if you played him everywhere, you won everywhere last week. Yeah. So. And then Eagles, they were last. But, yeah, he was a great leverage play. And then, of course, Lamb at 10% ownership. He was the second leading wide receiver on the slate with 28 points.
He didn't even finish the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he crushed it. And then, last thing, Hunter Henry, top tight end on the slate, 4% owned. So,
tight end's just weird as shit this year, man.
That's the leverage you need.
Just so throw back out there, Ramondre had 69 yards last night. I heard that's a funny number.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice number.
Yeah. Well, that's
all right.
That's it for roster percentage. And then the last thing I want to look at. So, one thing you have to be willing to do, of course, you see a lineup like this. It was pretty easy, right? Pay down at running back. You got D'Ernest Johnson, you got Ingram, you got Ramondre Stevenson. They're all $4,500 to $4,700 range. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to pay up for Josh Allen, for Diggs, for Allen, for Lamb. The other Allen, Keenan Allen. Not the one picking off Josh Allen 2 weeks ago, but
attacking him.
Yeah. So if you pay down for these low price guys that are getting a lot of volume, chase volume, of course, as we say sometimes, from courtesy of Chris Harris. You chase volume a little bit there. You get this great value, and then you can pay up for these studs. So that's what did it last week in the Milli Maker winning lineup. Eric, your lineup in the Milli Maker was not a winning lineup. It was not the top one, but it was the winning lineup in these three imbeciles.
Yeah.
So
that was great.
What you got for us? Why don't you break it down?
I had 168.5 points. I finished 1,002nd. So just outside the top 1,000. Looking back, my lineup ended up being much higher percentage than I realized it was, or that I thought it was going to be. But I chose the stack of. So I started with the stack of the Cowboys. It was the Cowboys and Falcons, and I was saying that oftentimes Matt Ryan will start hot or go through hot streaks, and then he'll just revert back to what he is. And so he might have a really bad game, and he did. So I started with the Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys defense. Those combined, that got 60 points. It was pretty. I think actually more than that. It was 70 points actually between that stack. But anyway, even more, might be more. But anyway, I followed that up with DeAndre Swift and Mark Ingram. Swift was only 6% owned, which is surprising. Ingram was pretty high owned. He got 20 points though. I also have Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, he had like 3 catches or so and 2 of them touchdowns. So hey, I can't complain.
That was my best play of the week
The only thing that I really,
Randy Moss stats: 3 catches, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Pittman didn't perform that well. I'd say the biggest fail that I had was J.D. McKissick. He was only 3.5% owned. Had he I expected the Tampa Bay to just put a whooping on Washington. I think everybody did, and it ended up being a Antonio Gibson game. So it's one of those things. Again, we can't predict game flow. Had the game flow been the other way, I might have scored another 20 points and put me up in the 190 range. So that's okay.
Yeah,
it happens.
Honestly, outside obviously DFS. Well, no, not really outside DFS. I was glad to see Gibson get volume.
Yeah, it's good to see him. I mean, he's a good player. Especially to be in a converted wide receiver.
We saw him last year. The guy's an absolute stud. He's a huge weapon for that team. And it seems like this year they just haven't utilized him. And now that they did, he got 23 touches or something like that. I don't really remember the stats. But guess what? You give your stud that much work, you're going to get the numbers out of him. And it's nice to see him, scoring, getting points.
Yeah, he did. He had a good game against a really tough run D. He had a lot of runs that were stopped in the backfield, but he just kept running. He kept pushing and turned the negative 1 or 2 yard runs into a positive. So, good on Washington. I did not expect that. It's like the fourth real surprising upset this year.
Yeah. Well,
Sunday.
That was your lineup, Paul. You want to run through yours real quick?
Yeah, sure.
If you have it.
I mean, my number one failure straight off the bat, I went with Carson Wentz. I thought it was Jacksonville. He's been throwing great. And it just didn't work out great. The good part about that game, I went with Jonathan Taylor.
My boy.
Once again. So, I went with the stack. Half the stack did good. The other stack, come on, man. D'Ernest Johnson, great. DeAndre, I'm sorry, Devontae Adams, 14 points. So
the whole game was a shit show.
Yeah. Then Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Dan Arnold. They did all right. Like none of them like really went off. And then Jared Cook, nothing, and the Titans defense.
For sure, man. Well, it's like the Milli Maker. It's like if you ain't first, you're last, right? Yeah. That's what it's like. I'm either trying to come in last place or first place. So I had Herbert in a stack with Mike. Yeah, I was like, I think I have him in a stack. I had him stacked with Mike Williams. I was like, I must have got really drunk and I made this line if I didn't stack Herbert. Herbert, Mike Williams, and then I brought it back with Dalvin Cook. Really, it's been the skinny stacks this year, so not the big stacks. But it didn't go the way I thought. And then I will say the one mistake that I made is the talk all week was that Zach Moss was not going to play, and I did not think he was going to play. So I started Singletary, and of course Moss played, so that was a fucking pointless start to have Singletary in there.
Yeah, this entire year's been like that. It's been game time decision.
Yeah.
You just get these lineups almost last minute.
Yeah, and I was going a lot of different ways. I wasn't really thinking too much about that. So yeah, and then Sanders. So, I had a mini team stack in there as well, Singletary and Sanders. This bunch of snowflakes. Herbert, Williams, Sanders, snowflakes. Jacoby Myers finally got in the end zone, so I nailed that. Great. But
I love watching this team celebrate with him. That's awesome.
Everything else sucked. So, and then Conklin.
Did he get his
Conklin was my biggest player. 16 points. I don't know. I didn't see that. And then Aaron Jones got hurt. So that was pretty much my day. But I'm off it. We're gonna bank the Milli Maker this weekend, and it's fine. I'm gonna quit my job on Monday and basically gonna tell everyone to fuck off.
Let's do it.
Let's look ahead to week 11. Let's do those Vegas lines. Eric, do you want to talk about these lines? And then you can go ahead with your team because you're the number one guy this week. Yeah. And by the way, before we get into this, I'm telling you guys right now, I need you to submit your lineups into our tournament that I send you. I think you guys are scared. You don't want to enter in this tournament every week.
You both twice.
Yeah, twice. And you're still scared.
Humiliate you. We care about your feelings, man.
And you're still scared because I've been inviting you to this contest 2 weeks in a row, and you guys don't get in on it.
Because
what's wrong with you?
Your feelings, man.
And you know what? And I don't want to hear any excuses because I play like 100 plus lineups, and I know you guys aren't playing more than like 10, 20 lineups in DraftKings, and somehow you missed the contest invite. So it's not like you're playing so many contests that you missed it.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
How many contests you played last week on DraftKings, Paul?
You know what? Honestly, last week I only played one. But here's the thing: the week.
There's your answer right there.
No, played one.
Hold on.
You played one.
I just played the Milli Maker, but the week before, I put 5 entries into the Milli Maker.
You put 5 entries?
Yo, this is the reason why I only played one last week because
I don't want to tell Alex that.
Right.
So here's the thing,
guys. I'm putting in 5 entries into goddamn Milli Maker, and it was just that shit show of a week.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I didn't hit shit, and I was so pissed.
So here's the thing. I want to talk to a lawyer about getting a small business loan for Fantasy Fling and then just MMEing the Milli Maker every single week. Like, I need to know the rules against like gambling with a small business loan. I don't know what that means. I don't know the rules, but I need to talk to a lawyer about it.
These are moving expenses?
Yeah.
Please send us the new lease. Mm-mm.
Yeah. We moved out of the office. We can't afford to pay the rent. We've been MMing the Milli Maker. It's
all right, guys,
it's not gone well.
Brought to you from the RV. With our Starlink, thank you, Elon Musk, for Starlink.
Turning some Breaking Bad from the RV, man.
For an RV because we are homeless and we got our girls dumped us.
It's like what is that movie? White Men Can't Jump. When his girlfriend wins all the money on Jeopardy, and then he goes and gambles it away on some basketball shenanigans. Oh, you did it again! You're so stupid. All right. Anyways, we're off the rails. Let's move it along to week 11.
Where we're going.
Yeah.
Let's get some Vanderlei. All right.
Go ahead, Eric.
Week 11 Vegas totals. We also go over these on the Fantasy Feeling podcast on Wednesday.
Yes.
Sometimes the lines move, but they usually not unless there's a massive change by quarterback being out or something like that. But top of the list, which is also the stack that I chose, you got Dallas and KC at 56.5 points. Shows KC's projected to win. They're 2.5-point favorites on that. There's going to be a lot of lineups made within that. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a dud where we're expecting fireworks and it turns into like a 13-10. It's a garbage show.
Yeah.
Second one on the week is Indiana, the Colts. Let's just say Indiana. Colts and Buffalo. You have it's a 50.5-point over under with Buffalo projected for 29 points, so they're a 7-point favorite. You got a minus 7-point favorite, and then you have Green Bay and Minnesota, which I feel like every year, like Rodgers and Adams have great games. Cook has a great game. It's a division rivalry, but it's not one of those like crappy ones where nobody scores. It seems like there's always like a pretty good game. That's a 49.5-point projected total with the Green Bay score projected for 26 points, which makes them the minus 2-point favorite. Same 49.5-point over under for Cincinnati and the Las Vegas Raiders. That's Cincinnati's projected. That's a close one. They're a minus 1-point favorite. So
I like that game, by the way.
A little surprising one, yeah. I mean,
there's some angles in that game that I like, and nobody is really priced high. I mean, Jamar Chase being the highest guy, but I'm heavy on Mixon in that game.
I'll tell you what, who I like that from that game a lot is Hunter Renfrow. Man, that guy since Ruggs has been out, he said 2 games in a row with 9 targets. He hasn't reached the end zone, but he scored 17-plus points in both games. Just saying, if he gets in the end zone, he's going to be in the 25-point range. Anyway, someone I really like, by the way. He's not in my lineup. Should have put him in there. But anyway, the last game on the slate is Arizona, hopefully with Kyler Murray coming back against
Big Hop is out this week.
Danger Russ. It's a 48-point over-under with Arizona having projected for 25 points. They're a 2.5-point favorite. One thing that we've talked about with these games, at least it's in my opinion, when you have a team that's a good team, let's remove bad teams out of this statement. Usually good teams, when they're embarrassed, they oftentimes, it's not always the case, but they oftentimes come back and put on a really good performance. Case in point, there's many you can make, but last week, Denver, they embarrassed the Cowboys. The Cowboys came back and they put a beat down on Atlanta. Green Bay and Seattle both looked awful, especially Seattle getting shut out. This may be the cheapest you ever see Russell Wilson on a slate ever. I predict a bounce back. We'll see how it goes, but I know it's a tough defense with Arizona. But, man, good teams tend to bounce back really well.
It's a stud coming off a dud narrative. It applies to teams, too.
Yeah, just
a team full of studs.
Just got to make sure DK doesn't get himself, grab too many face masks. Or trying to sneak on the field when he's been ejected.
DK doesn't have time for these little trippy DBs that he'll slap around. He ain't got time for that shit. His shoulders are too broad. He's got to flex on them.
But, man,
Can't handle it.
I like the narrative. A lot of times it's not always like the case, like I said, but oftentimes, especially when you're shut out like Russell Wilson was, that's got to eat at his soul to just lose like that. Not put up a single point.
Yeah. Speaking of, did y'all see what I put in the group chat today about Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree?
Almost fighting with the go-karts.
These motherfuckers are there with their children, dude. Yeah, you gotta watch this video, Paul. So you know about Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree, like
2 chains,
snatching chains.
But I got a few.
So This guy does interviews, and he's really good, and they put together this video, and him and Talib were playing pool, and he was asking about it. You know the story. Long story short, there's this go-kart center, right? They literally, Talib's there with his girl and his kids, and Crabtree's there with his girl and his kids, and they see each other, and they almost like throw down at like the go-kart center. Like, Talib's like, "Yo, we good?" He's like, "No, we ain't good." So they go outside, and then they're like, "All right, we're good." But
I gotta see this.
I'm like, can you imagine? Like, you're there with your children, like at an entertainment center, and these guys are
trying. My grandmama gave me that chain.
Dude, you gotta watch it. It's hilarious. But anyways, let's do it, Eric. Good. Why don't you tell us what you got? All right, wait. Before you go with your lineup, Paul, you're second. You're gonna roll, and then I'm gonna roll, and then Eric's gonna go with his lineup, and then we're gonna build our lineups.
Not having to roll is for closers. You guys got to roll because you're not closers.
A, B, C.
Just so you know. Just so you know, on the season, I still have the highest score in the Milli Maker, so, yeah.
Man,
well, this week, so here's the thing on this week. It made me rethink it, but I'm just going to go with it anyway, because I feel like if you overthink things, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor.
That's
right.
That
so you had mentioned, Brandon, in the analysis of the winner from last week, he paid down at running back, and that allowed him to buy some studs. I did the opposite of that, which is also one before too. Like, you've had paid up a running back, paid down at receiver. You just never know, right? Like, that's why we roll a damn die to see where we're going to go, because you just don't know which stack is going to go off. But I did the opposite of last week, and I paid up for running back. I paid down for receiver. We'll see how it turns out. I chose the actually, you know what? You guys should probably roll first before I go, right? Yeah. I chose the Kansas City Dallas, a 56.5 point total. Projected total. That's the stack I chose within it. So, Paul, do you have the lineups in front of you?
Yes, I do. Let's go.
All right, you're second, man. You roll after everyone figures out who they're going for. I'll start building my lineup and
just roll, Paul.
Got a 6. That gets me.
There's no 6.
Got a 2.
Indy and Buffalo.
Okay, right, let's go.
One thing I will say.
I got 3. Green Bay and Minnesota.
So Indy is hard to run against. They're really bad, really good against the run and really bad against the pass. That kind of lines up well for Buffalo's passing game, but you just never know. Brandon got oh man, I like Brandon's. You got Green Bay and Minnesota. I think I know where he's going with that one.
Yeah. I might have to hand build. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, man. Well, here's what since I am the winner of last week, which I don't have a great total, 168 something. Better than. Hey, by the way, Paul, did you cash in that? Did you cash in the tournament with 125?
No, unfortunately, I didn't.
Sometimes you just never know. Sometimes So the lineup that I wanted Mahomes, but he was more expensive than Prescott, and I feel like it might not be that far off. We'll see. I can never predict the damn game flow. Like I said, this could be a under 20 point over under. Who knows what happens? But for the stack, I chose Dak Prescott, and I had this guy in my lineup when I was tinkering around earlier. I don't know if the projection total gets too high, I might change it, but I went with Dak and Gallup. I originally had Amari Cooper in there, and I was playing, and I changed it to Gallup even before I learned out that Cooper was out. So I had Dak, Gallup, and Dalton Schultz as the stack. Dalton Schultz is the tight end. He has had a couple down games, but the Chiefs are really bad covering the tight end. And he's had a couple games in 20-plus point totals. So that's where I started with the stack. I followed that up with Zeke, who's also part of the – wait, shit, I'm on the wrong lineup. God dang it. Man, I apologize. Yeah, I'm an idiot. So let's start over. So it's the same thing. It's Dak. I was playing with a couple different lineups like 10 minutes ago before we started. So I have Dak, Gallup, and Schultz. Same stack that I started with. However, for running back, I have Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook. Mixon's lower owned than I thought he would be. Okay. And Cook has had an incredible – you actually pointed this out, Brandon, on the Wednesday podcast. He's had amazing games against the Packers, and that's hard for me to say no to. And they're home in the Dome. I'm in. I followed that up with the receivers. Like I said, Gallup's already there. I chose Jalen Waddle, who's a big play guy against one of the worst big play defenses in the NFL, the Jets. And I also chose McCole Hardman, who's $4,000. And the guy, he hasn't had that game this year, but he's had it every other year. I expect it's going to happen at some point where he has that big game. Hopefully it's this game. And then in my flex, typically I understand that, about 2/3 of the time, the Milli makers won by a flex with a receiver. However, I chose David Montgomery at 5,500 because I feel like he's a steal.
Okay.
And then I have the Cleveland Browns as a defense going against
Montgomery's at 55.
5,500, yeah.
Not bad.
Oh, you're good? No worries. And then I have the Browns defense against an awful, whether it's Jared Goff or whoever the backup is, I don't care. They're bad.
Wait, are they benching Goff?
Well, he's hurt. He has a stomach or rib injury or something like that. Oblique,
yeah.
I think is what they called it. So yeah, I kind of went. That's why I meant with my lineup. I was going a little. I went a little heavy on running backs and light on receivers. So again, Dak, I have Mixon and Cook, I have Gallup, Waddle, and Hardman. Which that's what I mean by the cheaper receivers because all of them have high upside, but they also could have a low floor. Dalton Schultz, David Montgomery, and the Browns defense. The Montgomery one is the one I toyed with for a while because, I'm just not sure. I think he's around 10% owned, somewhere around there. But at 5,500, man, when he's, last Monday when he came back before the bye, I didn't expect them to feed them the ball because he just came off his injury and they fed him the ball. So when he's active, they give him the ball. As long as Matt Nagy's there. That's going to happen. So, again, my lineup is kind of more geared towards running backs with a running back in the flex, which, doesn't always have the highest total, but you just never know. I tinkered with it for a bit, and that's why I came up with I like Mixon and Cook a lot this week, so I think they'll turn out well for me. Looking forward to it. But, yeah, I apologize about reading the wrong. I had another lineup that I was building earlier. I'll probably enter that one too. That one has Ingram and Ezekiel Elliott stacked with Prescott. It also has James Conner in it and Adams, which is a little iffy. But anyway, that one's irrelevant because it's not part of what we're doing. However, this lineup, as you can expect, all of them are subject to change. Gallup I had him in the lineup before I learned Cooper was out. I assume he's maybe chalk or close to it this week, so we'll see how it goes. But if it gets too high ownership projection, I may change it. But for now, that's what I have. Paul,
no doubt.
You had the Colts and Buffalo stack. Are you close to ready?
I'm ready. Stack-wise, in the Buffalo game, I'm going with Josh Allen. And going on the other side of the ball game with Pittman, as far as that stack. Then Montgomery. I'm feeling good about him. Like Eric
Hang on,
said.
you have Allen and who?
Allen and Pittman. That's going to be my stack for that game.
That's not a stack, technically, though.
It's the same game.
Okay.
Josh Allen and Pittman?
Yep.
It's not a stack.
It doesn't count if you can't.
Same game.
You could stack it and come
a,
back with the opposite receiver, but you can't. That doesn't count as a stack.
Whatever. Fuck off.
Hey, man, it's your lineup.
I'm going to win $1 million. You guys going to talk shit?
Well, I'll kiss your feet when you win the million and say, "I'm sorry, Paul. You were right."
And you're like, "Oh man, fuck." All right. Anyways, Swift, Montgomery, Rashad Bateman. This is going to be the week. This is go off week. It's going to.
I like Bateman, man. I had him in some lineups. He's had 6.6 and 8.8 targets since he got back. Everything's like you love to see the trajectory increase, and he's been. I do like Bateman. I debated on putting him in. I like him.
I love seeing it. Darnell Mooney, throwing him in there too.
Yeah, Allen Robinson's probably out.
Rookies.
Yep.
Let's go. These rookies been balling out.
He's the second year, but.
Oh yeah. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
And then Schultz, Connor. That game I feel weird about. I don't know what's going on with Murray yet. D-Hop's out. But, I mean, I guess feed the backs. And the Saints defense against Philly.
Okay.
It puts me exactly at 50K.
Nice. That's where I was too exactly. I think I hit exactly. Yep, I did. Yeah, man. I like the Bateman one. I was debating on that because if you look at, I'm trying to look back at his lineups. He I was really surprised at what I saw. I mean, he's really cheap. He's inexpensive, and he had 6 targets. He's 6'6", 8'8", and he had a lot of points. I mean, if he had caught a touchdown in any of these last 4 games, he'd probably be talked about right now.
It's gonna happen. It's coming.
I mean, he's been targeted a lot, and also one thing to keep in mind is Hollywood Brown has a thigh injury or something like that, so he's probably going to play. But when you have a speedster who's known that's kind of their game, and they're limited, that kind of could throw a wrench in things.
I mean, he's made some great catches. That catch you saw last week, the one-hand stretch out.
Yep. I would like to see though in the future, Paul. With Brand, and I'm not trying to call you out, although I am, and I'm trying not to be a jerk about it. But every single person who's won the Milli Maker has had a stack of players within the same game, or the stack of the same team rather. So Josh Allen and Michael Pittman doesn't technically count as a stack because they're on opposite teams, right? You could do Josh Allen and Emmanuel Sanders and come back with Pittman.
I was gonna go with that, but
that doesn't quite as count as a stack. I mean, like I said, it's your lineup, and that's cool. But I was just saying that all the research Brandon has done, and thank you for that, Brandon, has shown that a stack per se is what it's been in every single winning lineup this year.
Well, this is the Milli Maker lineup this week. Sorry, guys, to tell you.
It's all right. You're gonna put 5 entries in, and you're gonna lose $100.
Hey,
it's okay. It's okay.
How's that cheese tray, man? How's that going?
It's actually going great. My mom was coming over for Thanksgiving.
That's what it was for. Was the Thanksgiving? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 2 weeks ago was honestly I felt really confident in what I was doing. And it ended up being one of those tests you study for and you think you're good, and then you just get shit on with a C-. Instead of one of those tests, you're like, yeah, I partied last night, let's do it. And you're like, yeah, B+.
All right. Well, let's move it along, gentlemen.
Brando.
So I just hand-built this lineup.
Can't see California without Marlon Brando's eyes.
This is true.
Okay, let's do it. Sorry to interrupt.
So normally,
let's see what you got, man.
Normally, this is what I do. I will go over to DFS Army, and I will go to Domination Station, and I will put in a bunch of stacks that I like.
Mm-hmm.
However, this week for the Milli Maker, if I'm getting Minnesota and Green Bay, I didn't like the stacks that I got because I told you this. We looked at the game log. Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams, beasts in these games. They did that last year. I put them both.
Yeah,
that's
a good lineup, man.
So I made a mini game stack with Dalvin Cook and Devontae Adams in the same lineup. Yep. The way I did this was I did a Tua Jalen Waddle stack going against the Jets. So Tua was 5,500, Jalen Waddle's 5,600. That's a cheap stack that allows me to pay up for a Dalvin Cook, allows me to pay up for Devontae Adams. So top to bottom, I got Tua, 5,500, Dalvin Cook, 8,200, Ingram with Kamara out. He's going to be chalk again, but as we saw in the Milli Maker winning lineup last week, they had 2 very chalky running backs, and they still took it down. So I'll take that. One guy, super chalk, 5,400, Mark Ingram. And then my wide receivers, Devontae Adams at 8,400, Jalen Waddle at 5,600, and then Cedric Wilson. So Gallup is now 3,200. Gallup is now mega chalk. And Lamb, so it's going to be Lamb, Gallup. Those are the top 2 receiving options. Wilson doesn't have to do a lot to get there at 3,200. If he gets a tutty, he's pretty much going to get there. And then a tight end, CJ Uzama. Dude, these tight ends' names are so hard to pronounce. Uzama is it's not even that difficult, but the Broncos tight end, Albert Obanegano. I don't know. Alberto. Yeah.
Alberto.
So I got him in there. And then this is going to be another guy I'm going to talk about in the next segment. A.J. Brown going against the Texans. It's the Texans. Henry's gone. No Julio Jones. A.J. Brown's in a smash spot.
Yeah. It's a great game.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I want AJ to go off, and he kind of hurt me last week.
He had a bad game. He had one pass card.
I don't know, like, hey,
yeah,
hey, you got like 5 points or something. The defense kind of know, like, hey, you only really have AJ out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what the thing is, though, and I'm not saying the quarterback's the same, but like the Packers basically only have Adams, and he still does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they know that going in. Like outside of Adams, it's like, who else you got? It's like MVS? Nah.
MVS.
Whatever.
Seem to like MVS.
Nah. Like Brandon Cobb.
MVS drops the ball. Rogers is like.
So the point being, though, is against a bad defense, it doesn't even matter sometimes because, you know, I mean, sometimes they'll have up games. I would say that Adams is way more consistent than Brown, but Brown still has a damn high ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, last week I kind of, outside of obviously DFS, because it wasn't out in the main slate, I felt that same way about Deebo Samuel. I was like, okay, he's just going to get shadowed by Ramsey. Didn't happen. I mean, like maybe it did happen, but dude put up 30 points. So yeah, absolutely.
So my thought process with this lineup, I'm not expecting it to be high rostered because from the numbers I was looking at, Cook was coming in low, Adams as well, and then as well as A.J. Brown, which is surprising. So really this roster construction is dependent on Cook and Adams having their ceiling type game. If they do, like they've had, or at least close to it in the past, and, you know, A.J. Brown goes off, I have the ceiling that I need. If not, then I'm dead in the water, but that's how it goes. And then defense, special teams, it's either Bears or Washington football teams. So 2,500, 2,400. It's kind of tough to say. If you're looking at it, though, they're $100 difference. Who is more probable to fail, Cam Newton or Lamar Jackson? I'm going to go ahead and go with Cam Newton. I'm going to need to see one more game before Mr. I'm back. I
touted
is
that
actually
like
back.
Wednesday, man. I ain't gonna lie. I talked about Washington as well because, like, man, I don't trust that shit.
Yeah.
PJ Walker or Cam, even with Sam Darnold there, any of the quarterbacks they have. I can put Paul back behind the offense. He might complete more passes than PJ Walker. Shit.
They asked him, like, hey, man,
no doubt about it.
Playbook did you learn? He said 2 touchdowns worth. And I mean, he got them. We'll see. All
right. Well, next segment, we're going to finish this up. Stacks, studs, and sleepers. Paul, I'm assuming you did not study for the exam.
I always study for the exam.
Let's knock it out quick. Let's do it fast. I think we could.
We're going to 43 minutes. I'll start it off. So
get it done.
So I got a couple stacks that I like. Now, with the Dallas KC game, and we talked about this a little earlier, with Amari Cooper going out, that it definitely opens up some salary. So if you do the Mahomes side, you can do a Mahomes and Hill or a Mahomes and Kelsey, and you can now bring it back with a Gallup since he's so cheap. Or I like Schultz a lot too. I think Schultz is a great pivot off of, you know, Lamb, who I'm expecting to be chalkier because, I mean, he's the best wide receiver in that offense as is. And then Gallup slides right into that Amari Cooper role, and his price, he's just going to be mega chalk. So Schultz is a nice pivot. If you take the other side of that, it's the same thing. You can do Dak, you can do Gallup, you can do Lamb, you could do Schultz, of course, but you're probably going to want to do Gallup and Schultz if you're trying to bring it back with Hill and Kelsey just based on price. The other side is you could just do the Mahomes side of that, and you can just bring it back with Zeke. You could just fade the pass catchers all the way because Zeke is super low ownership right now. I think I saw like 4%, 3%. It's crazy. Anyways, let's not get too hung up on that game. I do like that Cincinnati-Las Vegas game with Burrow, with Chase, with Higgins. Bring it back with Waller, Edwins, Renfro. You know, hit it a few different angles. The Bills, Diggs or Beasley, and you could bring that back with Pittman or Taylor, I think, on the other side either way, going against Indy. So, yeah, those are my stacks. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, man, I have some similar ones. I have Dak and Schultz, Dak and Gallup as well. I think one that was on there that you didn't mention was Wilson and
yes.
DK and
I'm not trying to mention like 10 stacks.
Yeah, for sure. And so I'm trying not to repeat. I have a lot. I have Allen and Diggs. I have Rodgers, Adams, Lamar Jackson, and Hollywood Brown.
Nice.
A lot of the same ones, similar ones. I also have the Dak and Zeke one because of just the low ownership as well. Those are the main ones. I think the Wilson. I'm really high on the Wilson and DK or Lockett stack this week just because I feel like they're going to be lower owned because of what happened last week, and they're going against a pretty tough defense.
Yeah.
But Wilson he may have the best deep ball in the whole league. It's a pretty ball. So that's what I have for stacks, but mainly, like I said, I like Lamar and Hollywood as well. We'll see what happens with Hollywood Brown, but I like that. Allen and Diggs are in a good spot against the Colts because they are, as mentioned earlier, the Colts are pretty good against the run, which the Bills can't run anyway. Their running game sucks. So the way to beat the Colts is to pass on them, and that's kind of what the Bills do anyway. So it kind of seems like it would puzzle piece fit together, but we just never know.
Well, one thing we got to talk about is that Wilson game from last year versus Kyler Murray. Remember that fucking game?
Yeah,
Tyler Lockett went off. That is tattooed in my memory.
Yeah,
we can't forget about that. You got to have some exposure to those two teams because they could shoot off.
They could, absolutely.
For sure.
Even with Hopkins being out, Christian Kirk, who may be a sleeper, on that list as well.
We were talking about it earlier. I like it better with Hopkins out because his target share is too split with the other pass catchers for his price. Like, it's kind of stupid. So, like, with the cheaper options with a more condensed target share, I like it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's going to have to be enough because we don't know how my man Calamari that's a lineup you're going to have to set at we're in Colorado. It's a lineup you're going to have to set at 10 a.m. You're going to have to find out how that ankle's doing.
By the way, those East Coasters, man, when I was out there a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it's total cheat code. You don't have to have lock is at 1 o'clock. You can sleep in. You still got hours to set your lineup. It must be nice. All right. Let's move it along to studs.
Let's do it.
Go ahead.
I'll start that one out, man. I feel like when we talk about this, a lot of times guys that have the stacks are also part of the studs crew because that's why you stack them usually.
Yeah.
They're a good player. So for me, it was Josh Allen. I had Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Dak. Some studs. I really like Dalvin Cook this week and Joe Mixon, which they're also in my lineup, my Milli Maker lineup. I think David Montgomery is being underrated at 5,500. I think he's in for a big game. I like Adams and Diggs, A.J. Brown, Hollywood, Dalton Schultz. Like a lot of those guys. Again, a lot of those guys were already mentioned within the stack section, but some studs that I like for sure.
Yeah, and some of these guys they could also be sleepers just based on their roster percentage, which is kind of crazy when you talk about like studs. But you look at, dude, Jonathan Taylor under 7% right now. Like, that's just nuts to me. It's a tough matchup, but again, only takes one play for him to have that type of upside that you need because he's going to get the volume.
He seems like he has a 30-plus yard play every single game.
Derrick Henry in rushing yards. Almost. He's almost there. I mean, Derrick's
granted,
weeks, but he's getting there.
And, Nick Chubb is in line. He's going against the Lions, dude. Like, come on. So, I like him. Christian McCaffrey, another guy. He's coming in at 15% ownership right now. You worry about Cam, of course, taking some tutties away from him. But, I like Christian McCaffrey. I like him.
Man, I really want to see him stay healthy.
Yeah, me too.
It's fun. It's more. The NFL's more fun when you have players like him when they're healthy.
And then the last, he was in my two other guys. Dalvin Cook was in my lineup, and I wanted, and of course, because he's under 10% ownership, and that's just crazy to me based on his game logs last year against Green Bay. It's a great matchup for him. He always plays well against them. And then the other guy, I was trying to fit him in, and really, I probably in some GPP lineups, I'll just swap out AJ Brown for this guy. But Joe Mixon, 5% ownership against the Raiders. I like it. That's high projected game.
Yep.
Give me
I
some
have
of
them
that.
both. I agree. That's why he's in my lineup.
Yeah.
I agree.
Sir.
Let's do it. Let's move on to some sleepers. Paul, do you have any sleepers? Who you got for a sleeper this week? Nope.
Sleepers for me. Shit.
Okay, I'll start. Ready? I feel like Jalen Waddle is might be a sleeper this week. He's pretty low owned. He might have a great game. Same with the same game, Gaskin. I think Gaskin's ownership is rising, but another guy is like some deeper sleepers. I feel like Adam Troutman is a tight end. And it's one of those things where we talked about like Dan Arnold coming up and Conklin coming up because they have all these targets and time on the field. Troutman's been caught on that trajectory too. If you want to have some, this is my big ball play. You have Logan Thomas is out. Ricky Jones-Seals is out. There's a guy named, I had to look this shit up because I didn't even know, John Bates. The bare minimum of $2,500 for the Washington football team is the starting tight end. Whoever seems to start at tight end seems to do okay, usually with Heineke. $2,500 does not take much for him to meet his, to 4x, one touchdown. Basically, he'd almost be there. And the other guy that I have is MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. He's super cheap. He's 30. What was he? He's 3,200, 30. I don't even know. He's really cheap, and he's had games in the 20, like the mid 20s to 30s. I mean, literally at his price range, if he has one big catch like he's done in the past many times before, he covers 4x already. So MVS is that's why they're called a sleeper, though, right? Like it's not. MVS is the last one that I had. What was his ownership? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he is. He's like 3% owned, 3,700.
I don't know if you call this guy a sleeper because I think this is going to be the week he goes out. But Rashard Bateman is still $4,500. I honestly think.
He's like 3% owned, 4% owned somewhere. He's pretty cheap.
Yeah,
he could be a sleeper for sure.
$4,500. This is a guy who's ready to go off.
All right,
they're playing Chicago.
I got a couple. So, kind of as we alluded to earlier, these guys aren't necessarily always, 4K under guys. Some of these guys are just your regular studs, but they're not in a great matchup. Their ownership is low for whatever reason that may be. Ezekiel Elliott, dude, coming in at 3% ownership right now. This is the perfect leverage play off of Lamb, off of Gallup, off of all these other guys. Like, dude, if you just faded this game almost entirely, at least the Cowboys side almost entirely, and you just played Zeke, it's 3% ownership. And, dude, they've been run heavy for a while, so who's to say they might just be like, you know what, Cooper's gone. Maybe Chiefs are gonna give more attention to Lamb. We're just gonna run the football. I could totally see Zeke smashing in this game. Yeah, I could totally see him smashing in this game. And then, so that's probably my big running back play there. And then as far as wide receivers, I'm really shocked that Deebo Samuel's coming in as low as he is right now, going against the Jags. Yeah, that's right. Deebo's coming. 7,800, less than 9% ownership. Give me a little bit of that. Justin Jefferson, he is my sleeper for the week. This is a high projected game for sure. He's 3% ownership projected right now. That's just nuts to me. I don't believe these numbers with CeeDee Lamb. I'm seeing 4% right now. That's going to go way up, so I'm not even going to talk about that. A couple other guys. Look at tight ends. TJ Hawkinson, 1%. I can go for that. 1% in tournaments. Get a little different. Get a little weird with it.
You can see Paul's bitter right now because of last week.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen.
I can see the look on his face. I can see your face. Like you're like, oh, fuck that guy. Sorry.
Again, we talked.
Motherfucker, you burned me.
Dude, it's almost like Tyler Conklin didn't do anything last week. 3% ownership.
Yeah.
What? Projected? Last week he was in the winning Milli Maker lineup. People don't learn. He's going against the Packers this week in a high projected game. I like that. Another guy, he hurt me last week. I'm a little scarred. I just can't help myself. It's kind of like my kryptonite. If you get like a blonde girl with tattoos who I know is bad for me, but I get a little whiskey, I can't help myself. Dawson Knox.
Any girl when you get whiskey.
Paul, don't go there. Don't go there.
He hurt. Oh, he hate me. You said he hurt me, and I was like, what was I do his name? He hate me.
Yeah, Dawson Knox. He hurt me last week, but I think he's a sleeper. Like he had a great first part of the season before he got hurt, so I like him too. Less than 5% ownership going against Indy. Those are my sleepers.
All right, man. I like it. I like the Zeke one. Zeke is, if that stands true, and he's only 3% owned, man. Like you said, that could be a smash game for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
that's it.
That's it for Week 11 preview. Kept it under an hour. We went a little long this week on both podcasts, but we kept it under an hour. And like I said, I'm quitting my job on Monday after I win the million.
Yeah, when I win the million, I won't change a damn thing about me. I'll be the same guy. So, I'll probably be back on this podcast again. Not probably, I will be. So when I win that million, I'll be back here and I'll keep doing the same stuff.
I'll just snowboard and hike even more than I already do. And, and I'll play DFS. I'll put half the money. I'll take half the money, put it into an index fund. The other half the money will be my bankroll in DFS. That's how it goes.
All right, man. Well, gentlemen, I hope one of us wins. It'd be great if any of us. Of course, I'd like it to be me, but if you guys won, I'd love that too.
Yeah, of course. I never hate on you guys for winning $1 million.
I'll give you guys a little bit of money.
Yeah, I'll throw something away.
Yeah, I'll take you to B-dubs every Tuesday night, and it's on me. Okay.
You got the 50 wing tray again? How high are you? As high as you haven't seen me.
We're doing the buy one get one. Okay, so I'm gonna do like 50 wings, so then I cover like everyone else here.
I ordered all the wings you have. What I believe you said, give me a lot of wings. What I actually said is, give me all of your wings.
All right,
good, boys.
Well, that's going to do it for Week 11. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, share, and then, hey, add us. If you want to get in on this weekly contest, throwing down some monies, if I can get these assholes to actually join maybe this week, that'd be fun. So
do it.
Let's do this.
See you next Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see you for the Week 12 preview. Good luck this week, everyone.